Morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is emptiness and the fullness of emptiness. And it should be another fun conversation. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just place our palms together and very softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation, the tickling and tingling, and allow that deliciousness to bring you present right here, right now, into this marvelous physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Wonderful to start the day with you, as always. Rosalind says, good morning. My belly is empty, no coffee yet. Well, thank you for coming, even with an empty belly. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. If you're wanting to write comments, please be sure to go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And that's where your comments will be seen, or you can go to Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel as well. So I am delighted to talk with you this morning about emptiness. I went through a bunch of different thoughts about what to call today's topic. I was going to call it, what was I going to call it? Avoidance. And originally I was thinking about avoidance, and then I thought about the void, and then I thought about emptiness. And what I'm talking about when I talk about emptiness is really what Joe Dispenza talks about in terms of nothing, no thing. Good morning, Gio. So good to have you joining us. Great to be having you back. So nothing, no thing, no one, no place, no or nowhere. And when we move into that space of nothingness, no thingness, and no identity, no identification with even our experience, what happens is we move into this vast emptiness that is pregnant with possibility. So it's an empty cup that is the receptacle for unlimited possibility. And most of us go through life with not only a cup that is full, but that is already overflowing. And so, what does it take to find that emptiness? And why would we even want to? Why we would want to is because that enables us to be the flow. That enables us to be in the flow of life itself, to be a purer expression of life expressing itself. And the ways that we can begin to approach that emptiness is by putting our attention on our breath. That's one of the most simple ways to do it. The idea, I'm smiling because I'm going to say the idea is to get out of our heads. And where do ideas reside? In our heads, right? So when we get out of our minds, when we go out of our minds, what's available to us is unbounded possibility. And so in that emptiness, emptying ourselves of our preoccupations and our preconceptions and our beliefs and our ideas, as we empty ourselves of all of that, or more and more of that, we make room for more and more of the universe to move through us. And it's interesting to me, like this goes back to the idea of avoidance, how, and actually the very first thing I was going to talk about, I was going to title today's talk Deflection. And that's all of these things tie together because of the crazy twists and turns. Good morning, Dido. So good to have you here with us. Yay. The things that we will do to avoid facing something that might be uncomfortable, like sitting down to meditate, getting really restless, to avoid meditating because whatever, why. Maybe because there's a fear about what's present there, or what happens when we allow ourselves to disappear and make space for the flow of life itself. So when I was thinking of deflection, I was thinking about how sometimes in work that I do with my clients, it's so funny. It's so funny that people show up to do the work. They show up to do the work, and it takes tremendous courage. And then they also have mechanisms to avoid the work, right? And I was thinking of the word avoid, and it's a void. And to void something is to make it non-existent. But also, when we think of the void, it's non-existence. So, I love playing with words. So what we kind of want to do or what we're aiming to do in meditation is to step into the void, right? The void is not void of all things. The void is the fullness of possibility. So that emptiness is the fullness of possibility. So we're just playing here with words, but I think in playing with these words, we get a richer sense of our being and our ways of being. And the idea of deflection came about from a conversation, even though this isn't directly related at all. It came about from a conversation with a client where they were talking about experiencing the field, like actually in their movement, feeling the connectedness of everything and feeling how their movement moved the entire field. So just take a moment to do this mind experiment where you imagine that we are in like a fish in water, okay, that are what seems like empty space. Imagine that it's all part of a matrix that is all connected, and as we move, we're moving that matrix. As we're experiencing ourselves moving energy, moving our body, that this whole matrix around us is moving with us. And if you can imagine that, you can imagine that our movement affects everything else. So again, we think there's this emptiness around us, right? But what if it's all like a cosmic gel, a cosmic soup, the ethers, if it is actually something. And when we move, and when we move our energy, it impacts all of it. So anyway, we were talking about that, and I was thinking also about this deflection, like something moving toward us and then pushing it back and having these ripples out into the universe. And also just playing with the notion of ideas and thoughts being things that we can catch and release or we can hold on to. This is going all over the place here, but Rosalind says there are a few boxes I haven't touched since I moved in. Blank canvas. Blank canvas, that's awesome. That's really emptiness. That's what we're talking about. I'd like to empty the garage and put stuff back in order while throwing stuff out. Less clutter will give space for functional items to more visible and readily accessible. So decluttering is a great thing. If we talk about emptiness, we're talking about it of mind and spirit, but also spatially, creating space. And there's definitely an opening that's created as we create literal openings. We get metaphorical and spiritual opening as well. Good morning, Lisa. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. So we're talking about emptiness, and oftentimes when we think of emptiness, we think of lack. And there's a richness and a fullness in emptiness. When we think of empty, we often associate it with feeling depleted, right? I just empty. Or my tank's on empty, like I've run out of gas and my tank is on empty, for that metaphor. Hopefully someday people won't have any clue what that means, because we won't even have gas as part of our culture at all. Wouldn't that be a lovely thing? No more fossil fuels. Anyway, when we think of emptiness, we what I'm inviting is that we look at the fullness available within it, like the infinite possibility that's available in it, rather than it being a state of depletion or of lack. When we feel like we're on empty, that gives us an opportunity to choose how we replenish and nourish and revive ourselves. And I think that the ideal that we might be going for isn't getting full, but being this constant channel. So at any moment, it's both empty and full, or empty and filling and emptying all at once, so that there's this constant motion of life. So again, when we look at identity, who are we really? Who are we really? So Lisa says, I'm confused. Yes, I get you. What I'm doing here, I think, is sort of shaking up this whole idea of emptiness as, emptiness is being a fertile ground for possibility. When we're a full cup, when our cup is full, there's no room for anything else to be in it, right? If that cup is I guess this is where the cup metaphor comes apart, but the cup idea is from the story about the Zen master and the devotee who comes to the Zen master and says, teach me. And the Zen master is pouring tea in the cup, and the cup is overflowing, and the tea is pooling on the table and dripping on the floor. And the devotee is saying, but you're pouring the cup, that the tea is full, and or the cup is full. And the master says, yes, you're a full cup. There's no room to receive the teachings. And so the question is, how do we be in emptiness and fullness? In emptiness, meaning receptivity, and the fullness of possibility. How do we be in that space, rather than full of all our preconceptions, all our ideas and beliefs and predispositions? When what we get to do is we get to empty ourselves of all those biases, of all those lenses through which we perceive the world, in order to allow life to flow more freely through us, in order to be open to possibilities that we wouldn't have even imagined if we stayed anchored to all those beliefs and ideas that we define ourselves with. Lisa, does that help to clarify? I think I'm deliberately playing here with opposites to kind of loosen up our attachment to the idea of emptiness being a negative, like, rather than maybe emptiness provides us with access to something so much grander, so much richer, so much more multidimensional. So again, what's the goal of, if there's a goal of meditation? It's connection to source, right? So Lisa says, oh, I get it, thanks. Cool, because I'm not sure how articulate I'm being here, or how effective I'm being in putting this forward. It's not like it was a fully formed idea when we started talking. So an example, and we've talked about this before. So this thing here, we know it as a pen. right? We know it as a pen, and it's an orange pen, which might be a little bit unusual. It actually has orange ink. And a pen gets held in a certain way, and a pen is for certain functions. It's for writing, it's for drawing, right? It has its function, and I can see this as a pen. And when I see it as a pen, there's a lot that I don't get to see about it, because I have filled the cup with this notion of pen, rather than being able to see into the design of this thing. Like when I have the definition pen, then I can dispense, I don't have to look at this anymore. I can just use it, right? But when I'm looking at it as something that I'm discovering, there's a whole lot more to see about it. You know, I can see the textures, I can see the different materials, I can feel the different materials. I can notice some of the nuances of design that were, when it was just a pen, I didn't even pay attention to, for example. So as I'm emptying my cup, I can start noticing things about this in terms of its structure, in terms of its elements that were imperceptible to me or weren't part of my conscious awareness when I identified it as simply a pen. So Rosalind says, if atoms are mostly empty space, then why do objects look and feel solid? There's freedom in being less attached to our bodies, constructs, and thoughts, emotions. So I love this question. I love this question, Rosalind. It's like, it's the greatest question ever. If atoms are mostly empty space, then why do objects look and feel solid? And when we talk about frequency, and I don't have an answer. I'll just start out by saying I don't have an answer. Lots of brighter minds than mine have dealt with that question and continue to. But when things, when the movement of things slows down, or maybe it's our perception, maybe it's that our perception is residing at a lower frequency, so that the interpretation of all those all that movement isn't perceptible because it's happening at a much higher frequency. So our rate of interpretation, maybe it's that's so much smaller, so that we end up, or so much slower, that somehow we perceive things as solid, even though they're really mostly space. And I agree, there is tremendous freedom in being less attached to our being, our physicalness, and our thinking and our emotions, for sure. I tend to imagine that if we were able to raise our frequency, raise our awareness, our consciousness, that we would be able to penetrate matter without experiencing it as solid. If you've ever had astral projection experiences, you may have experienced yourself. I have had an experience where I moved through a floor in an astral state. And I believe, rightly or not, I hypothesize that in the right mindset, or from a specific mindset and presence of frequency, that we could move through matter. There are accounting, there are stories of people doing things like that. So anyway, I think it starts with opening our perception. And interestingly enough, you know, like because of this projected background, right? When I move the the pen into that background, it appears and disappears. And physics says that reality blinks in and out of being from moment to moment. And I can imagine that, when we're blinking in and out of being, we're going into the void, into the nothingness, into the all, all and nothing. And then we're blinking back into this limited, individuated physical manifestation, and then blinking back into the all and everything, and blinking back into the physical manifestation. Anyway, lots of things to think about today, right? I've got to run because I have a client, but I want to say thank you, as always, for being willing to go into these thought experiment spaces, to be thinking about things differently, and entertaining those possibilities. Like, what does it mean to bring emptiness? So that's what you get to engage with. Kimberly, so good to have you here with us. Thanks for chiming in. You have a wonderful day to all of you. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please check out the awesome community and the other programming from Enlightened World Network on EWN, One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living, and Emptiness. Why not, right? So much love to you. Until next time, I hope I see you again here really soon. Lots of love.